In this video, I'm going to react to athletes who are caught cheating. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. This is the place where I react to music, media, sports, anime, anything related to popular culture. I'll watch it with an open mind and give you my 100% honest reaction to it. And if you could please hit that like button early, I'd really appreciate it. Now, this video is going to be really interesting because I imagine, let's say you've worked all your life, from a super young age, you make it professional. Maybe it's the Olympics or you get to a championship game. The temptation to cheat, to take some kind of performance enhancing substance must be so high. I imagine, to be honest, I reckon cheating amongst athletes, professional athletes, is probably a lot higher. It's a lot more highly used than the public knows. Just because, when you get to the top level, everybody is good. Like in the NBA, for example, everybody's fantastic. The difference in quality can be like very small. Obviously, you're gonna have the absolute icons of the sport, like your LeBrons, your Steph Currys, and etc. But for the most part, the difference between the players is very minimal. So anything you can do to get an edge, anything to increase your chances of winning must be really tempting for these athletes. And this video here, it's gonna actually show the athletes who took that chance and then got exposed, they got caught in the act. And I imagine it must just be devastating for their career. Endorsements probably lost, sponsorships. I imagine companies don't want to be associated with a known cheater. So it's a huge risk. Obviously, these guys got caught. So yeah, this is going to be really interesting. So let's go. This is going to be me reacting to athletes who got caught cheating. Let's do it.
An attitude of winning at all costs sees some athletes throw the rulebook out the window. But once they've crossed that finish line or climbed that podium, a single keen-eyed onlooker can bring all their hard-won success crashing down. With that, let's take a look at some shocking times athletes were caught cheating.
I mean, the most well-known one that I can remember is Lance Armstrong, the cyclist. But other than that, I can't really think of any.
Rosie Ruiz. If you look up the definition of cheating in the dictionary, there's a good chance you'll find a picture of Rosie Ruiz's face next to it. Back in 1980, this athlete became famous almost overnight after she won the Boston Marathon. A complete unknown, she crossed the finish line with the third fastest time of any woman ever recorded.
Wow.
But once she was over the line, suspicions began to arise. After running over 26 miles so quickly on a 70-degree day, she should have been completely exhausted. But Ruiz appeared suspiciously well rested, raising questions. Was she on some kind of steroids? Perhaps a special training regimen? After several days of confusion, witnesses came forward claiming they had seen Ruiz join the race from the sidelines less than a mile from the finish.
Are you kidding me? So she didn't even complete the whole race? Wow, that's cheeky.
Probably about a half mile from the finish. She was in track clothes and wearing a number, but I thought someone had just sort of stumbled into the race. Maybe somebody was a little...
Further investigation revealed that during the New York Marathon 6 months earlier, witnesses had actually seen Ruiz riding the subway to the finish line. Even though she denied both accusations, the evidence was piled against her, and Ruiz was stripped of her win and record. Although you have to hand it to her, that's certainly one way to train. Dwight Howard.
No way, Dwight Howard? NBA center Dwight Howard. What the hell?
When it comes to cheating, sometimes you need the biggest balls on the court. Or in Dwight Howard's case, the stickiest. Back in 2016, Dwight was playing NBA-level basketball for the Houston Rockets. While the Rockets were playing against the Atlanta Hawks, officials realized the ball was covered in a tacky substance right after Howard had touched it. The rules of the NBA state that it's illegal to use foreign substances during games, so this raised several red flags. Officials wandered over to the bench and found a glaringly obvious can of Stickum, a kind of spray adhesive, in plain sight of everyone. It was once used to help players get better purchase on the ball, but it was banned from the sport in 1981.
The thing is, I can't imagine why you would use that in basketball, because unless you actually score points, you're not going to win. Like, I guess if you're trying to get rebounds, maybe it might help to have like a sticky substance on your hand, but to actually win the game, to actually score the points, it's going to be detrimental, right?
Both teams were warned, but no player was accused, and the game continued. After the game, however, Howard admitted to Houston Chronicle writer Jonathan Fain that it was him. But not just that, he then also admitted to using Stickum in every game he played. Somehow the baller just laughed the incident off, and no fine or charge was ever brought against him, avoiding what could have been a very sticky situation. 2012 Olympic badminton players. Of all the sports you might associate with cheating, I doubt badminton immediately springs to mind.
Agreed.
But at the London 2012 Olympics, intentionally throwing matches became the new winning strategy for several teams. A round-robin system was used in this Olympics, which meant all teams would face each other at some point. The results of earlier matches would be used to put teams into suitable skill brackets, pitting teams of similar ability against one another. So by strategically losing some games early on, a team could play easier matches against weaker teams at the knockout stage with better chances of winning. This was a strategy that China's team players Wang Xiaoli and Yu Yang attempted to exploit in the women's doubles tournament. Unfortunately, the South Korean team they were facing had adopted the exact same strategy.
No way.
Jung Kyung-yoon and Kim Ha-na faced the Chinese team on the court, and the world bore witness to one of the worst games of professional badminton ever played. How bad?
God.
Well, the longest rally in the first game only lasted 4 strokes. A series of clearly intentional, basic errors ruined the...
I mean, the crowd must have just been thinking, what the hell are we watching right now? You know, to get to the Olympics, you are the best of the best. You are the best your country has at that sport. So to not be able to do a normal rally...
the game, and fans jeered and booed at the teams as they left.
Wow.
To make matters worse, another match between a separate South Korean team and Indonesian team suffered the same clash of strategies. Because what they were all attempting was so blatantly obvious, all 4 pairs were formally accused of trying to rig the matches by performing poorly.
Wow.
As punishment, they were disqualified from the rest of the tournament. Hopefully that'll teach them not to be so shuttlecocky in the future.
This guy with the puns. I mean, why would you... Just do the right thing. I know you want to win. Everybody wants to win. Just do the right thing.
Spanish Paralympic basketball team. In 2000, the Sydney Paralympics was rocked by a scandal that still has people shaking their heads with shame today. On the Australian Paralympic courts, the Spanish learning disabled basketball team beat Russia in their final match to win gold. But after the games closed, a member of the team, Carlos Ribagorda, confessed something outrageous to the press. The team was supposed to be made up exclusively of players with an IQ of less than 70, but 10 of their 12 players were actually mentally competent athletes with much higher IQs than them.
Now that is just low. Come on. Come on.
Maximum. Apparently, they had all signed up as part of a wider scheme to boost their country's chances of winning. They'd even been provided with fake medical certificates to help them feign disabilities. Worst of all, for 2 years leading up to the Paralympics, they had trained around the world beating disabled athletes. Even with all that exercise, I don't know how they could sleep at night. Shockingly, the mastermind behind the scheme was the president of the Spanish Federation of Sports for the Intellectually Disabled. But he was fined just 5,400 euros after admitting to...
That was all he was fined. 5,400 euros. I mean, how is that any kind of deterrent from someone else doing this? That's not going to stop anybody else from trying this again.
The charges of fraud and embezzlement. Maybe these pieces of work should have competed in the limbo event instead, seeing just how low they can go. Tonya Harding. In 1994, the world of figure skating became a total media circus after drama struck the ice. The day before the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, title holder Nancy Kerrigan was filmed finishing a practice skate in Michigan's Cobo Arena. But just seconds later, she was screaming in pain on the ground after a man with a police baton attacked her.
Why?
What?
I don't know, some hard black stick.
With her thigh badly bruised, Kerrigan was unable to compete. Her longtime rival, Tonya Harding, went on to take first place and was selected alongside her for that year's Winter Olympic skating team. However, police soon discovered the attack on Kerrigan had been ordered by a bounty hunter. In a shocking twist of events, Tonya Harding's ex-husband, Jeff Gillooly, and her once bodyguard, Sean Eckert, were labeled as the culprits. They'd hired the bounty hunter to break Kerrigan's leg, removing Harding's competition in the upcoming events. Although she claimed she had no part in the conspiracy, Harding later admitted that she knew her ex-husband had been involved, but she'd failed to report it.
Wow. Now this is incredible. The level of scumbaggery is just insane. You had someone go and hit her with a baton? Jeez, man.
A disciplinary panel stripped her of the championship title shortly after she'd participated in the 1994 Winter Olympics. But the Olympics had been filled with some justice of their own. At the games, a malfunction with her skates saw Tonya placed down in 8th, while Kerrigan managed a silver in 2nd. Karma gets pretty icy sometimes. Bloodgate.
I remember this.
Back in 2009, the world of rugby was shaken to its foundations during the scandal now known as Bloodgate. In a Heineken Cup match between the English Harlequins and the Irish Leinsters, the Harlequins' Tom Williams was suddenly pulled off the pitch in the game's closing moments.
I mean, this whole incident was ridiculous. So the one thing that you needed to be able to substitute, it just magically happens.
He had blood dripping from his mouth and was told he couldn't play on, but the only substitute available was Nick Evans. Nick had also been injured earlier in the game, and under normal circumstances, the rules state that a player can't be subbed out more than once per game. But thanks to an exception in the rules specifically regarding blood injuries, Nick was allowed to hobble out regardless. Fortunately, Nick was exactly the type of player the Harlequins needed at that moment to have a shot at winning the match. It seemed like a bloody good stroke of luck. But as Williams headed towards the bench, the cameras caught him winking to his teammates.
Just like, we did it, guys. It's just such a stupid thing to do.
Would you be winking and smiling after a supposed injury to your face?
Of course
Something
not.
definitely wasn't right. So the European Rugby Cup set up an investigation into the substitution. They found Williams had been given a fake blood capsule by the team's physiotherapist in order to allow Evans back on at the critical moment. It was an illegal tactic orchestrated by the team's chief executive, Dean Richards, who was accused of 4 similar incidents. Richards, Williams, and the physiotherapist all received bans from the sport, and the Harlequins club was slapped with a £260,000 fine. Worst of all, the Harlequins cheating didn't even bag them the win. To this day, the BBC claims it was rugby's biggest scandal, and I'm inclined to agree. Well, either that or the 2009 alternate away kit designs from Stade Francais. Yikes. Michael Pineda. In sports like baseball, one fumble can be the difference between victory and defeat. But back in 2014, New York Yankees pitcher Michael Pineda simply couldn't get a grip. As his team faced off against the Boston Red Sox, the Major League Baseball pitcher decided to up his game by using pine tar to improve his grip on the ball. He placed a small patch of the sticky substance on his neck, with his plan being to discreetly rub the ball there before throwing it. But not discreetly enough, it would seem. Before long, the Red Sox coach had spotted something afoot and was informing the referee. And funnily enough, at the same moment the coach complained about Pineda, a fan in the stalls could be seen pointing out Pineda's obvious faux pas. After several umpires checked his hands and neck, Pineda was...
I'm impressed by the eagle-eyedness of that coach and the fan to be able to spot that and identify it. It's pretty impressive, honestly. I don't think I would have noticed that. Like, really, really impressive.
Immediately ejected from the game. In the 10 games following, the The rules of Major League Baseball state pretty clearly that you can't use foreign substances on the ball, but this wasn't the first time Pineda had been caught cheating like this. He'd used the same pine tar in a previous match against the Red Sox and had even been caught on camera having obviously applied it. Maybe Pineda just wanted to live up to the pine part of his name, but this was hardly a pitch-perfect way to go about it. 2012 Olympic women weightlifters. The final lift of the 75 kilograms category at the 2012 Olympic women's weightlifting event was an incredible moment for everyone watching. Both Svetlana Podobedova and Natalia Zabaletnaya had set new Olympic records for women, with Podobedova taking the gold for Kazakhstan. In doing so, she'd pushed Zabaletnaya of Russia into silver and Belarusian lifter Irina Kulesha to third. They all made lifting weights look natural, except there was nothing natural powering the performance of these ladies. Despite testing clean for illegal performance-enhancing drugs at the time, the International Olympic Committee began reanalyzing athlete drug tests in 2015. Thanks to an advance in technology, the committee were able to pick up previously overlooked substances, catching past cheaters who thought they'd gotten away with it. The reanalysis revealed a list of athletes who had clearly violated anti-doping laws, including 3 names you'll recognize: Svetlana Podobedova, Natalia Zabaletnaya, and Irina Kulesha.
This is the thing with performance-enhancing substances or drugs. Like every year, innovations are made, improvements are made in them. So I imagine that it's hard. Like even if you test an athlete, they might be on something that the tester may not know of, may not be aware exists. So I just think that if I had to guess, I reckon this kind of cheating, like in this case, the weightlifters, is rampant. People just taking new substances that aren't yet on the open market. They're at the cutting edge, and it's going to take a few years for those drugs to become widely known and able to be identified.
All 3 of the muscle-bound matriarchs were disqualified, stripped of their medals, and had their Olympic records nullified. So even though they were pumped up on steroids, they still managed this all-natural fail. Femke van den Driesche. While some athletes work to improve themselves, others work to improve their methods of cheating. That was a sad fact that became clear back in 2016 after cycling champion Femke van den Driesche became the first ever athlete to be caught mechanical doping. That's a fancy way of saying she'd hidden a motor in her equipment to make the race easier. She was competing in the cyclocross championships when she suddenly stopped mid-race, claiming there was a problem with her bike. But on closer inspection, officials spotted wires and a battery concealed under the bicycle seat, leading to a motor hidden in the crankshaft. Van den Driesche was able to turn the motor on and off inconspicuously through a Bluetooth button attached at the handlebars. This turned the crank and helped push the pedals at key points in the race. Like here, where on a difficult climb, Van den Driesche was seen easily pulling away from the group with very little effort. When asked to deliver her defense, she claimed the bike belonged to her friend Nico van Mulder. Even though he confirmed her story, the rules at the time stated that the responsibility for the bike was all hers. She was hit with a 6-year ban from professional cycling and a fine of 20,000 Swiss francs, which is just shy of $21,000. Before being stripped of all her previous titles. Guess she should have pumped the brakes on that plan. Have you ever been caught cheating in a sport before? Or spotted?
That was fascinating. I mean, the lengths that some of these athletes went to cheat was just astounding. I mean, the cyclist actually having the audacity to put a motor in your bike, and you thought nobody would notice that. You didn't think that, people were watching, looking closely at the equipment, because obviously, yes, the fitness of the rider is probably one of the biggest or the biggest part of that sport, but the actual bikes they use, these things are going to be heavily scrutinized. And Dwight Howard applying the stickum on his on the balls, that was pretty funny too. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me one bit, just because when you've given your life to, a sport, you just want to win. You want to win at all costs. And there are going to be loads of people who will do anything, whatever it takes to win. And it's just a fascinating debate whether we should just let them all cheat and see what happens, or whether we should, continue to try and make it fair. What do you think? Should we let athletes just do whatever they like, cheat, use whatever substances they want, or is the system that we have right now the best one? Let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and keep throwing the recommendations my way. I know I say it all the time, but they genuinely help me out, because if I know you enjoyed watching something, I'll definitely enjoy reacting to it. So like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, keep throwing the recommendations, and I'll catch you in the next one.